Good morning. My name is Brenda Lee, the Contracting Officer for the Home Equity Convergent Mortgage Requirement. Thank you for coming to my pre-proposal conference. I will hope that this conference would benefit us all in understanding the requirement, exchanging information before receipt of proposal. Next, I would like to introduce to you my Assistant Chief Procurement Officer, Jimmy Smith.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jimmy Scott, the Assistant Chief Procurement Officer for both Program Support and Operations Support currently at HUD. And I'm going to do two jobs today for you. The first thing is, before I actually welcome you here, I want to talk about a little bit of logistics. There are several breaks actually scheduled in the agenda. The male restroom right now is blocked off on this end, so you will have to go to the other end actually to visit the necessary room. And then also, if you leave the building during your breaks to go to LaFont for coffee or any other type of food or beverage, you will have to come back in through the entrance you came in this morning. If you need any assistance, we have several staff members here to actually assist you, or if you need any guidance, we just ask that you do not wander the building or go visit people while you're here for the conference. So, with that said, on behalf of the Secretary, Deputy Secretary, and our Acting Chief Procurement Officer, Keith Serber, and the leadership of the Housing Office, I'd like to welcome you to this pre-proposal conference. This is both an exciting and a challenging time here at HUD as we actually transform the way HUD does business. There are, we are looking to, I shouldn't say there are, but we are looking to you all as industry to do three things really for us. The first one is partnership. We need partnership with our industry leaders. We need partnership with our contractors that are providing us with the various supplies and services that we get every day. And it's not just about coming in and delivering us an actual solution or a product, but actually being good business advisors to the program offices and to the agency while we help the housing market through this transformation that we are going through today. The second thing is flexibility. And what we're talking about is the nature of the housing market is very volatile and it's very fluid, which all of you know. Many of you have been in this industry for a lot longer than even I have. And we need you to be flexible in both your approach and your solutions to react to the changes in the market and the needs of our program office as they make those demands on you with their requirements. And the last thing is innovation. We have a saying that we call dare to dream. It is very good for me as a contracting officer to see the number of people here today because when we see this number of vendors who are interested in a particular procurement, we know that there is competition in the market and we have a viable industry base and source pool who will be bringing great and new leading edge ideas to the problems that we have in the form of our requirements and needs. And so it excites me, as a leader in the OCP office, but also as a contracting officer to see the number of you that are here today. And so, I'm not going to take up all your time because I'm standing between you and people who have a wealth of knowledge that they're going to share to you, particularly about this requirement. But I just want to say once again, welcome to HUD. And we do appreciate your interest in coming together to actually support HUD in its mission. Thank you.
Okay, the next briefing will be the solicitation overview, and Lynn Sims will be doing the acquisition strategy.
Hello, welcome. I'm here to provide you with an overview of the solicitation. And first up is the pre-proposal communication. All information presented here today is unclassified. FAR Part 15201 allows exchanges with industry before receipt of proposals, which is why we're here. This is an informal exchange of information to provide offers with insight into how the government will evaluate proposals, which in turn will aid in proposal preparation. Please note that one-on-one discussions are not allowed, and just wanted to give a little word of caution. Try not to, or don't actually, take the networking sections to engage in conversation that may give you some type of unfair advantage. I also ask government officials to be aware of such conversations. That doesn't mean that you can't discuss the requirement during the networking. It just simply means try to just discuss what's already been disclosed. We will have representatives walking around to pick up any questions that you may have written on the index cards that you received earlier today. To the maximum extent possible, we will try to answer them today. Throughout the day, let's remember FAR Part 104, procurement integrity. Also, formal RFP is the only contract action to allow industry to respond to the proposal. Pre-proposal conference objectives: to promote a common understanding. Our objective is to promote a common understanding of the United States Housing of Urban Development's home equity conversion mortgage business service provider requirement. It is our intent to explain in depth or clarify any possible ambiguities relating to the proposal instructions, to provide questions and answers or comments in reference to the solicitation, and finally, to provide offers the opportunity to network with other offers and government officials. Our rules of engagement. As stated earlier, offers will have the opportunity to write down any questions, and we will, time permitted, provide an answer or more insight. The answers received today are informal and unofficial. Please keep in mind that the official answers will be posted to FedBizOps approximately 4 days from today. Should you have any additional questions after the day's session is over, or additional questions arise after the official answers from this pre-conference meeting are posted, you will then have one last opportunity to submit written questions. The deadline to submit final questions is July 25th, 2014, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All additional questions shall be sent to the email listed on the screen, which is bspre-prosconf@hud.gov. All communications should go directly to the contracting officer only. The acquisition overview. Solicitations DU 100 R's in Romeo -14 R's in Romeo -0004. This is a firm fixed price contract. The period of performance is 1 base year plus 4 option years. This is 100% small business set aside. In order to be eligible, you must meet the definition of small business to include the size standard. The next code will be 522390. Other activities related to credit, intermediation, loan servicing. The size standard is 19 mil. The product service code is R as in Romeo 710, financial services. This is a performance-based acquisition. It's 100% inspection by way of reports for the surveillance method. The government does feel that a 9-month transition period is adequate for this requirement, and the place of performance is at the contractor's facility. I thank you for your time, and I will now turn this back over to Ms. Brenda Lee. And remember, write those questions down so we can get them answered for you. Thank you.
I'm going to go over section L and M in the solicitation. And I'm going to identify some of the things you need to pay attention to. I like to reiterate that this is not a IT requirement. This is a service requirement. And it is not IT. I've got several questions about that. A business service requirement. It has IT functions, however, it is not IT. And the NAAQS code remain as is. First of all, on the 1449, when you do your pricing, on the 1449, it's preferred to do the pricing on the pricing sheet. You don't have to put pricing on the 1449 because the pricing sheet is Excel, and it's easier for me to determine your pricing, and I'll go over the pricing sheet. But you will need to sign that 1449. Make sure your refs and certs are complete. You don't have to send me a copy. I can download it on the internet from the website. As Lynn mentioned, we will have another set of questions after the conference, and it will be due after the 25th of July, closed by 12 o'clock to the BSP pre-proposal conference email address. Phone calls and verbal questions are not acceptable. They all have to be in writing. Submission for proposals will be through Fed Connect. It'll be all electronic. If you have any problems, I suggest you test it, but if you have any problems with it, there's an 800 number in the solicitation that you can call. If you have any issues with that, please call me. Subcontractors, if you are subcontracting, you just need to make sure that you comply with the limitation of subcontracting. That means that the prime has to do 50% of the work. This has to be identified in your pricing. You need to separate your pricing from your subcontractor from your prime. And that's the Fed Connect. And this is the 800 number that you would need to call for Fed Connect. There's also if you have a conflict of interest in accordance with these sections in the PWS, you need to submit a mitigation plan. This mitigation plan is not going to be evaluated. It's just if you do have one, you have to identify how you're going to handle it in each one of the sections. And I believe we have a IVMV, and a audit, independent audit. But they will not be evaluated. It's just an organization. It's an OCI issue. Okay, the technical proposal. Of course, you have the technical separated from the business. You have a page limitation for your technical. I think we have it divided by factors. But on this particular page, the table of contents, the divider, all of those are not included in your page count. This is the format that should be used for your technical, and I believe it's self-explanatory. On your first technical factor, factor 1, technical understanding and approach shall not exceed 15 pages. You only need to identify tasks 3, 4, 5, 11, 14, and 16. You need to address each and every one of those tasks on how you're going to, your understanding and your approach of this requirement. Now, I have to reiterate, this is a performance work statement. We tell you what our outcome is. You tell me how you're going to do it. We do not tell you how to do it or how it was done before. You're going to come back and tell us your approach. The next key personnel is management plan. In the management plan, you should have these elements. You should have the key personnel and their responsibilities, your proposed subcontracting arrangements and reporting relationship to that subcontractor, a plan that demonstrates successful communication and coordinating, because this requirement is very complex. A clear understanding, a clear line of authority from the top of the organization to all those working on this effort. And we also ask for a preliminary quality control plan that demonstrates an understanding of the business requirement. Now, when you submit the preliminary quality control plan, once an award is made, then you will do a final. Your key personnel, resume should not exceed 2 pages. We have these specific labor categories in here. However, amendment will be forthcoming, and you may want to address maybe a different labor mix that you may want for your own company may better fit your approach than what we have here. So I am going to give you the option to submit your own key personnel. And these are just experiences, what you should have in those key personnels. I received a question about why we got 3 certified contractors. Well, that's what the program office wanted, so I will look at that when we do the amendment. And of course, the past performance, the references should come to me, and you should identify on the chart who they are. In order for me to do a thorough price analysis, I'm asking for other than cost and pricing data. That's any information or cost information that you have that comes up with your line item price, how you came up with it. That's what this attachment B is. We'll go down through all this. We've been through the factors. These are what you want to actually be evaluated on. So we pretty much have it straightened. We pretty much have it together to show you exactly what we are going to evaluate. L is your instructions. M is what we're going to evaluate against. We also will evaluate your options, your escalation rates or whatever they may be. This is a fixed price contract. Now, this is the pricing sheet. We have startup costs. We have a transition of 9 months. I've gotten a question, they said, well, can we do 3 months? Well, you can submit whatever you want, but once you look at the requirement and you find out the complexity of the requirement, is it really realistic that you can do it in 3 months versus 9 months? And these are fixed price. They're already calculated. The travel line item, we already gave you a price for that, because the first year you will be traveling all over the United States. How many? 25 trips to do training for the web base, for the requirement. So you have a not to exceed amount in there of $84,500. And everything else, you just plug in your fixed price, and it should automatically calculate, because it should go unit price times the quantity should be the total. 9 times out of 10, when I get a proposal, they don't add up right. they don't add up. Please verify that your pricing is correct. Also, please verify that your total, which is, let's see, you don't have it. But anyway, there's another sheet that should have been on here, but the front sheet of your pricing sheet, what it does is once you plug in those prices, it automatically comes over to the front page. Make sure those prices are filled out, and you would have your base year, your option year, your option years. A lot of times they don't total out their price. And also I have, in the spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and it has tabs. And the first tab is summary. The second tab is base year, and on option year 1, option year 2, option year 3, option year 4. So you just click on the tabs in the Excel. Now, you're welcome to submit a PDF to lock in your price, but I would like a workable copy of your pricing, of this pricing sheet. It's easier for me to verify your pricing, because a lot of times the rounding off just doesn't come up with the same thing that I come up with. So just make sure that your formulas are right. There is a note of assumptions at the end of this pricing sheet, which is another tab. And you can use any format you like, but you can use that worksheet to show me your other cost and pricing data on how you came up with your fixed price. And of course, there is one other tab that's an optional line item that I'm probably going to do an amendment. I haven't decided how, but we asked for a price, a fixed price for the system that you're going to use and enhance. This would be your system, and this would be an optional line item for you to submit a price in case, as an optional for us to purchase the system. That's what that optional line item is for. And I believe that's it, and then we'll go into questions and answer session. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, I have people. You have any questions, Linda, come get your card and she'll read your question. She'll go to the microphone, or you can go to the microphone. The other way, right?
That's on.
I think while we're waiting on the questions, one of the things, award will be made on a best value trade-off. I forgot to say that. So it could be other than the lowest price. It would be a best value. You have any questions?
We ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so.
I will.
First
Will Taylor is our attorney here.
All right, first question says, why does the government believe that a 9-month transition is adequate for anyone except the incumbent?
I can't hear. What did you say? I can't hear. Can you give me the question? What was the question? What was the question?
Why does the government believe that a 9-month transition is adequate for anyone but the incumbent?
That's a technical question. We'll save that one for later. Gabrielle, you want to answer it now? We'll save that for the technical.
Okay.
Is there any contractual questions?
Well, and some general ones. So, will you please provide a copy of the attendees list with contact information, both in person and webinar attendees, to aid in teaming/networking?
I have to see about that. I don't release names. Some do, but I have to check on that one.
Okay.
I think I had that before.
For key personnel requirements, are there any equivalency trade-offs? For example, instead of a PMP certification, could they have additional years of program management experience?
That would be a technical question. We'll save that for later, your trade-offs on your key personnel.
Can you explain more about the line item for the system price that you are considering adding?
What you mean, the one where, you mean the optional line item? The optional line item? The optional line item is just a line item that we wanted to see just how much, to see if we could purchase a system that would do all of these calculations and the IT function of this requirement. It's just an optional line item. We probably, I'm going to amend the requirement, we're probably not going to use that price to be included in the overall cost of the contract. It's just a separate alternate, a separate optional line item. Like I said, this is not IT, this is the IT function of it, but it's not the service part. And we really need to focus on the service part, because that's the problem that we have, is understanding HUD's regulations. And I'll go into that when you go through the technical.
Past performance, should it only come from the prime, or can it come from subs as well?
Yes, it does. It strictly says that in the solicitation, that you should at least have one reference from the sub. Yes.
Is there an incumbent currently performing these services? Please provide a name and contract number.
I don't have the contract number, but it'll be posted, but QSSI is the incumbent.
How many FTEs are currently performing these services?
We cannot answer that question.
Are subcontractor letters of commitment required from all subcontractors or just the major subcontractors?
Say that again.
Are subcontractor letters of commitment required from all subcontractors or just the major subcontractors?
All subcontractors and all key personnel letters of commitment are required. Just make sure you submit all your letters of commitment.
The remaining questions will be answered later when the
Okay.
panel is here.
Okay, now we'll take a 15-minute break. And what time is it? What time is it? It's 9:40? We'll come back at 10.
Good morning. Welcome back to the second half of our pre-proposal conference. This section deals with the technical aspects of the performance work statement. And on our panel, to my left, we have Karen Hill from the Office of Single Family Housing, Bill Fuentavilla from Office of the FHA Comptroller. I will also be speaking. I work for Bill. And we also have Kathleen Malone, who is the Director of the Office of Financial Services. I will now just let you know that some of the questions that we received early on will be answered during this presentation, but please feel free to write any questions you have on the cards, and we'll try to address those as much as possible today. I'd like to now introduce Karen Hill.
Let's get that turned on first. So, hello everybody. It's good to see you here today, and it's good to be here to share some information with you about this important program. My role here is to actually talk a little bit about the HECM program. I know that some of you are familiar with it. Most of you at least have probably some knowledge of it, and some more in depth than others. But it's very, very important that you understand the complexity and challenges of this program. And I'm going to the volume of the loans originated under this program is a relatively small portion of FHA's volume, but it is a very complex program that serves a particularly vulnerable population with high headline risk. The program has been the subject of intense scrutiny from Congress, the White House, the public, regulatory agencies, news media, and senior advocacy groups. There's a high demand for data, and public expectation for this program is to maintain the highest standards in origination and servicing. So that said, it's also a program that, based on the annual actuarial study of the FHA Mutual Mortgage Insurance Fund, has been projected to pose significant risk to the fund. As a result of the MMI fund risk, FHA has implemented significant changes to the program over the last 12 months, and there are more to come. Again, some of you may be aware of these, but it's been a particularly challenging and busy year in terms of some of the policy changes that have been made to this program and keeping up with the implementation of those policies, not only from a systems point of view, but from an industry point of view. So the purpose of the program is to provide seniors, enable seniors to assess the equity in their homes, which will enable them to have access to additional income and to age in place. Servicing requires managing multiple payment options to the borrowers from the line of credit with varied and often frequent distributions, interest rate changes, interaction between the originator, servicer, and FHA systems, and loss mitigation programs. The purpose of this discussion is to emphasize the need for the highest standards in systems and process supporting this system, or this program rather. This chart shows you what has been going on during the last year. The first three items in this chart are changes that began in 2009 and 2010 with the advent of the housing, in response to the housing and finance crises. But as you can see, beginning in April 13 and through so far in 14, we have been introducing significant policy changes at a pace that is kind of unprecedented. I'm not going to go through each of these, but it just gives you a visual kind of the amount of activity that has been going on. Particularly in response to the potential risk to the MMI fund, Congress actually approved the HECM Stabilization Act of 2013, which authorized HUD to implement a series of policy and pricing changes to stabilize the program. As I'm sure all of you can appreciate, we believe this might have been one of the few bills that actually passed Congress last year, so you know that it has to be something that was very important at that level. This slide gives you an overview of the volume of the program. Since the inception of the program in 1989-1990, FHA has endorsed 873,929 HECM transactions totaling $200 billion. Currently, we have about a little over 600, or almost 628,000 active loans totaling $148.7 billion. And HUD has an assigned loan portfolio of 21,000, almost 22,000 loans totaling $4.2 billion. It's important to note that loans that are bought out of the Ginnie Mae pools and assigned to HUD when HECM disbursements reach a certain percentage of the max claim amount. Therefore, this system is not only supporting industry originators and servicers, but must support a fully functioning servicing capacity for HUD as we actually manage and service those assets that are assigned to us. As will be noted by some of the other speakers, there are numerous interfaces between this system and other HUD systems, as well as interfaces with industry systems. So everything we do impacts both HUD and the industry partners that we work with. This gives you a snapshot of the endorsement volume since the program was implemented in late 89, 90. Our first actual production was in 1991, 1992 at any measurable rate. As you can see, we peaked production in the 2007 to 2009 period. At the same time, the housing and financial crisis was taking place. We were amping up our production of HECM transactions. And in large part, many seniors were taking advantage of this program to supplement losses in assets, in equity in their homes, and so on. Unfortunately, that book of business is also causing a significant risk to the MMI fund. And as we did with forward mortgages in response to the housing crisis, the industry was basically turned upside down. I mean, there were so many changes, and the business has changed dramatically, that this is sort of the same phenomena that's happening with HECM at this point. We didn't catch up with it as quickly as we did with forward mortgages, but a lot of these changes are in response to the impact of the housing crises. So even though our volume has dropped off, with the many changes we made the last 2 years, our volumes has changed fairly consistent. We expect 2014 to have around 56,000 endorsed loans totaling about $14 billion. We also believe that there is significant demand for this program, and if we can actually make the changes we need and implement those and get to a kind of doing business as usual status, we believe that the growth of the baby boomers, the growth of the senior population and retirees will definitely, this program will be an important part of the solution for their retirement. And this last slide, I just want to point out what was driving many of these, the need for these changes and the risk in the program was really the introduction of the fixed rate product. When Ginnie Mae started securitizing fixed rate loans, it really led to a trend in the industry of seniors taking large draws at close, for the most part taking out all the draw at close because of the interest rate risk in terms of supporting future distributions on ARM loans or on fixed rate loans. Our objective in many of the changes that we made was to reverse this trend and move back to the original idea of this program being an adjustable rate program that would operate more like a line of credit, that you would take advances out as you needed them and use those monies over time to support your retirement. So the business model that resulted from this move to fixed rate loans caused much greater risk to the FHA fund and also serious questions regarding sustainability for the program for seniors. In 2009, you can see that only 12% of HECM transactions were fixed rate loans. That's the first column on the left. You can see that with the introduction of the Ginnie Mae securities, we dropped to about 30% ARM loans and almost 70% fixed rate loans for a period of about 3 years. If you take this slide and compare it to the change slide that we just looked at, you would see that changes to the program introduced in April of 2013 initiated a slight shift to ARM loans up to about 40%. Additional changes in September of this year have reversed that trend to 84% adjustable rate loans. So the transition to ARM loans and other program changes also underscore the need for a post-loan closing system that ensures accurate and robust support for the program. And this last slide, just informational, gives you an idea of what the average age of the HECM borrower is. And you can see this has decreased also over the last several years, from 76 years to about 73 years. But we do have more and more borrowers coming in at the age of 62, and many using this as kind of a transition to their Social Security at 65 or older. And so with that, just highlights of some of the things from the program. If you have questions, I'll be glad to take those, and I'm going to pass this over to Bill.
Very good. Pass this as well. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, my voice doesn't project, so if it drops off, please raise your hand. As speakers before me have, I would like to thank you for your interest and thank you for attending today. Thank you for taking the time to come and hear about this very important program. We need your help, and we are eager to hear your questions and your ideas. We're here to highlight some of the key requirements that we know or we believe are critical to successful operation of the program. And if you think of those key requirements as a three-legged stool, then Karen Hill has just discussed a little bit of the first leg, which is policy and policy changes. These sustain the program and protect the FHA insurance funds. But policy has to be implemented in our operations. So I'm going to talk a little bit, along with Gabrielle Scandone, I'm going to talk a little bit about operations and the operation environment. And then finally, Kathleen will discuss the third leg, and you'll have to wait for Kathleen to get the full story on that. You all have the PWS, and the operation requirements are laid out there as best as we knew how to write them. But that's certainly not perfect, so we are interested in your questions. I'm going to use my time here today to highlight the environment, the operating environment. I want to focus on just a few things that I think might not be familiar to everybody in the audience, but that we think are important. Just a quick word on, just briefly cover the scope. Basically, the basic steps are loan setup and receipt of the initial mortgage insurance premium, billing and collection of premiums, maintaining the case information while the lender is responsible for the loan. Then for some loans, claim processing, assignment to FHA, and servicing the FHA assigned cases or notes. And finally, for all of this, support for HECM cash and accounting operations that affect the FHA insurance funds. So basically, the contract requires HECM program operations and HECM accounting operations. What's hard about that? Some of you are already familiar with HECM loan servicing, and you may be thinking program operations, that's servicing. I've got that, $1, no problem, check. Accounting operations, that's debits and credits, heck, that's easy, 98 cents, check, no problem. So, $1.98, how hard can it be? Well, we have found that some of the trickiest parts of our HECM operations involve working with us in the federal government and in the federal environment. In effect, we're asking you, the contractor, to join us in our house while we serve up the HECM program to the public. And without knowing anything about our house, these operations might look easier to someone on the outside than they really are. We want you to be successful, so take a quick tour. What parts of our house wouldn't be familiar? Well, when we were establishing our current HECM operations, we found, let's see, I've got the right one here. There we go. We found that there were some of these functions that are part of the scope were actually more difficult than others, and these were the most federal specific, and these included claims processing and assignment of loans to FHA, and servicing the FHA assigned notes. For all of our HECM program operations, and particularly for these areas, please consider that our operating procedures have to satisfy the mortgagee letters and other congressional and HUD regulations and guidance that express HECM program policy. Another set of requirements that is very specific to federal operations is accounting operations. Please consult with experienced and qualified accounting professionals who are knowledgeable about federal fund accounting generally and about federal credit program accounting in particular. So if you don't know things like the USSGL, if you don't know terms like cohort year and risk category, you need to work with somebody who does. There's a lot of people living in our house, and to be successful, the HECM operations contractor will need to relate to all of them, external and internal. We'll start off with the external parties. We have our HECM commercial stakeholders, the servicers, originators, investors, and we also have many HUD offices and users, HUD stakeholders. Overall, there's about 2,600 people engaged in HECM operations, in our HECM operations, using the HECM contract operation services. So that's a lot of people. Let's take a look at those external stakeholders. Just have a little chart here showing the makeup, and the number at the bottom ticks and ties with Karen's number. That's very satisfying. Let's have a. So am I. Let's take a look. So one thing we immediately see, one thing that's characteristic of our business is that the portfolio is highly concentrated. The top 7 lenders account for about 400,000, if you do the math, do the arithmetic, 400,000 out of 627,000 cases, which is 64%. The top 7, that's 7 out of 130, that's 5%. So that sounds like it simplifies things. Well, not really. We have to service and support all 130 organizations that participate in the portfolio and all of their participating employees. As I said, our house has a lot of groups, so there's internal stakeholders as well. Now, let's see. Okay, you should be able to read it up here. And we have representatives here from all the different offices. I'm just going to go through them all and discuss them. Karen Hill represents, I'm going to say you represent the Office of Single Family Program Development, Policy, and Underwriting. I don't see, okay. We also have the Office of Single Family Asset Management. I don't think we have a representative here. Somebody can speak up and correct me if they want. But the Office of Single Family Asset Management includes our National Servicing Center in Oklahoma that services the assigned notes, and also the Division of Asset Management and Disposition that handles real estate-owned homes that we acquire through claims. Natalia Yee. Natalia, would you raise your hand? Okay. Directs premiums and case management in our Division of Insurance Operations. Patrick Porter. Patrick. There we go, Patrick. Directs claims processing in the Comptroller's Financial Operations Center. He came here from Albany to be with us here today. Deborah Toribio is here to answer questions about accounting, federal credit program accounting, cash management. My own office is the Systems and Technology in the FHA Comptroller, under the FHA Comptroller. And my office provides sort of coordination support for all offices and to assist in coordinating the activities under the contract. And Josephine Wong, where is Josephine? There's Josephine. Josephine represents a very important internal user for the HECM program. She represents the Office of Evaluation, which relies on HECM operational data for our actuarial and economic modeling. Our models, these models identify all the risks to the FHA insurance funds that Karen was talking about. Without the models, without the data, we would be blind to make the policy changes. And so that activity, which has to be supported by our operations contractor in terms of providing data, that activity supports all of our risk-based policy decisions. Successful contract operations will require working with all of these offices and helping us integrate their processes. I think I'm up to the next one. Okay. Each of the FHA offices that works with the HECM program has implemented policies and procedures that have to be supported by our HECM contract operations. While it is possible to change these procedures, and sometimes necessary, the procedures are embedded in the way FHA is organized, in the way or the responsibilities are allocated to our various offices, to employees and to contractors, and the way we present ourselves to audits and for oversight. So the existing procedures of our FHA offices represent boundaries for the HECM contract operation. The boundary can change, but change will be slow, expensive, and often difficult. Let's step through the major boundaries. For example, FHA's Office of Program Development has established procedures for underwriting and endorsing HECM loans. These procedures are carried out by FHA personnel using FHA's CHUM system to execute the underwriting functions. So the HECM contract operations will interface with and integrate operations with CHUMs. Our Office of Financial Services has established procedures for premium billing and collection and claims processing. HECM contract operations will support these procedures directly. Our Office of Financial Analysis and Reporting has established procedures for cash management and general ledger operations. FHA's accounting staff use the FHA subsidiary ledger system to execute these procedures, and the HECM contract operations will have to update, reconcile, and support these functions through an interface with that system. The National Servicing Center and its contractor have established procedures to manage HECM assignments and to service HECM assigned notes. NSC and its contractor staff will be relying directly on the HECM contract operations to execute those procedures. The Office of Evaluation has established actuarial and economic models that use HECM loan status, loan history, loan activity. The actuarial and economic models enable FHA to execute forecasts of the performance of the HECM program and to develop risk-based policies. HECM contract operations will provide the single-family data warehouse with the data required for these models. The models will evolve and change every year, as Karen has indicated. They're changing now. They'll continue to change in response to risk, oversight requirements, and new HECM policies. And FHA's Asset Management Office has established procedures for managing the REO properties that we acquire through claims. The Asset Management staff use, among other services, the SAM system to capture details about the properties FHA acquires. FHA contract operations will support FHA's asset management procedures through interfaces with the SAM system. Gabrielle Scandoni, coming up next, will say more about interfaces and some other operational considerations that our FHA offices rely upon. These constitute, again, the boundaries of the HECM contract operations. The services we're looking for you to join us. We're looking for you to fit within this and make these all work together. When I started, I said that successful contract operations was a stool with 3 legs. We have policy, we have operations that Gabriella and I together are going to talk about, and then finally Kathleen Malone will close with a few words about the 3rd leg, and so stay tuned for that. Okay, Gabrielle, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you again for attending. It's wonderful to see so many participants here. I actually have the next part, and that's talking about the interfaces. And that seems to be like a really big interest of most of the questions that we received, because everyone wants to know, oh my gosh, how much do we need to do, what needs to be done, and how does it need to be done? Well, the most important thing that the business service provider will be giving to HUD is to support the program. Okay, and it's very important to support the program. So interfaces happen on a daily basis. They go from your solution, they will interface with our FHASL system. They will also interface, you'll receive data, all of the underwriting data will be coming from the CHUM system, and that is a daily interface. Updates are done Monday through Saturday. So I think Sunday, you get a day of rest, which is nice. So that, I know there are a lot of questions asking exactly how are those done. Some of those requirements are listed in the PWS, but some of them will be based on the solution that you offer or propose to HUD. And then you would be able to work, the successful vendor would be able to work with the various components within HUD. I'll show you some of these really, I hope you can see that, but if you can, it's in the PWS. And the reason I have this is kind of complicated looking is so that you understand there's a lot of complexity in this program. There's a lot of things that are going back and forth. There is an extensive amount of work that needs to be done to make sure that it's working correctly, to make sure that the information entered by the originators and the servicers and the investors matches up with the information that is collected in CHUMS and then from CHUMS to the service provider. And those bits of data, they need to match, and you need to be able to also provide reconciliation support so that we understand that when the service provider becomes a system of record, let's say a change happens, well, we need an audit trail for that. We need to be able to have that audit trail because we're also subject, I'll flip to the next slide to kind of give you a better idea, is that the interfaces, they have to support the users. They have to support the lenders. There has to be information that is provided to Ginnie Mae, as Karen was mentioning, because we do support Ginnie Mae. We have HUD-approved contractors, and another very big portion of it is, to make sure that you capture that, is the National Servicing Center not only has a contractor that handles the assigned notes, which are very small, it's about 4% of the portfolio, but they also answer all of the servicing-related approval questions. So let's say a servicer needs to request an extension, or extension on due and payable, or various types of extensions. The National Servicing Center staff, they process those, they handle those, and so your service has to be able to process that. Some of the things that they do is they also have third-party providers. So your tax monitoring is handled through the Ferret system, and bulk imaging, we don't really have a name for that program, we just call it bulk imaging. Bank releases and whatnot, those are done through Recon. The file formats that are used to transfer the data, for those of you who are familiar with that, that's the NACA file format. So those of you who are in this industry, those are terms that are going to make sense to you. And then the death and bankruptcy updates are provided and transmitted through Banco. So we just want to make sure that you understand that those are some of the different interfaces. There are also a number of things that are proposed, things that for example, that the accounting system currently uses a certain process now, like OTC net, but we are going to be transitioning to pay.gov. So that's important to be able to note, and I should be able to get to that answer later because we did have a question on it. Now, another thing that's very important for us to have on these requirements to note is that oops, I went too far, is that we have a very important process, and we need to make sure that we have data integrity, accuracy, and timeliness. And Bill and Karen spoke about that a little to some extent because we are under a lot of scrutiny. This is a high visibility program. It's very small in terms of all of the FHA programs. However, that senior population, those gray panthers out there, they are like on the ball. They are really good advocates for their constituents. And so we get a lot of inquiries from Congress. And so there are lots of data elements that you need to be able to give to HUD like that. Now, Bill mentioned some things are slow. Yes, some things are very slow in this program, but other things are very quick. In the sense, if we get a call from Congress, Congress wanted the answer last week. So we don't necessarily have the luxury of being able to say to them, I'm sorry, we'll give you that answer in 2 months. Okay, so that's a little sense of urgency. And then also just to let you know, there's one particular one. We need to make sure that all of the interfaces, all of the things that you are proposing in your solution, the way that your service, your IT part of your service works is that it makes sure that you're meeting the IT federal requirements. We have FedRAMP, we have continuous monitoring, we have NIST standards, we have FSMA standards, and all of those are important to make sure that you have that. One particular one, which is just now being implemented by HUD, is called single sign-on. And so that is discussed in the PWS. If you don't understand it, it is listed in detail. If you have questions after reading through that, please feel free to send those in to Brenda, and we'll get an answer back to you. So, as I mentioned, you have to also be able to realize that HUD does change its platforms, and it does change its underlying systems. We basically use the FHA connection in all its feeder systems, but at some point in time, changes are made. What are those changes usually referred to? They might be, oh, now we have a new reporting requirement. We might need to add 5 fields to your interface files. And so those would be that's generally the nature of the changes that we have. We just recently upgraded our connection control document with Ginnie Mae. There were no changes made at that time. However, we do believe that in the future there will be some changes which will be adding fields. And just again, to remember that HUD could change its operating platform, and in that sense you would need to be able to meet that interface change. Those are general things that we know in advance. You know, we would be able to give you most likely 2 months or more advance on those kinds of changes. So on this last slide, I think actually I've already discussed a little bit, is that make sure that you are able to track any changes that are made from your system to the support systems or the other feeder systems, so that we can always have that audit trail, so we can find out and determine how was that change made, who made the change. That's just good policy for from a program standpoint, but also from an accounting standpoint, because our auditors, we have auditors in all the time, you know, and that's just a constant at HUD. And so there's also that component that you would also have an independent auditor looking at your functions. So you would want to be able to say, yes, here's what the change was, here's, we asked for an approval, we received that approval. And then another component that is new is the online survey tool. And we've asked for that online survey tool to make it available to the HUD users so that they can come back and tell us how well your service is doing. And that is part of our monitoring on how well we're meeting the requirement, because we talked about us being partners, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a partner. And so we want to see how well we're doing. And that's what that online service survey tool will be. And then we do also have bulk transfers. That's usually when a lender has a significant amount of information that they'd like to upload, and they don't want to be sitting at their computer keying them one by one, which makes sense because, you know, technology is pretty cool and does lots of fun things. And being able to upload a file in a specific format is something that we're asking you to be able to do, as well as to provide downloads. My last slide is on reporting, and I've somewhat spoken about that, but HUD users need information. They need it quickly, they need it accurately, and there are a number of different formats in which they'd like to see that. And so you might have a dashboard report format that you want to use, but also to allow the users to be able to change that. In a different manner, if they want to move things around, if they want a column here versus over here, you know, that's a flexibility that most systems provide, even though this is an IT, but I'm just telling you, it does have that IT component. And then especially for the Office of Evaluation, it's very important that your product provide us with the database schema, the table and field descriptions, and the data dictionary. Because when the Office of Evaluation or any of the other program areas are responding to congressional inquiries or building actuarial models, we need to make sure that we are reading and interpreting the data correctly. Because we don't want to report to Congress something that we have to go back and go, oh wait, we misinterpreted the data that's coming from our partner. So those are the different things that I have. I will also be monitoring, or moderating, excuse me, the question and answer session at the end, but I'd like to now turn the time over to Kathleen Malone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gabrielle. I'd like to just spend a few minutes. Got to push. There we go. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking to you about the successful partnership. You know, assuming we have perfect proposals and a perfect contract, how will we build our relationship? What will it look like for the 5 years of the contract? I think a lot of it begins with a certain acumen of government, you know, as Bill calls it, our house. You know, Karen talks about the dynamics, the program, the changes which we've gone through in the past few years. But all of, I think, that's tied together by ongoing communications among, I guess, our partner and the government. Some of that communication is in the performance work statement. We talk about meetings, we talk about the help desk, but a lot of it has to do with our values, which we'd like to talk a little bit about. And I think it's been said, but just maybe in summary, accuracy, it's important to us, responsiveness, flexibility. Jimmy talked about that in the beginning. Even if we have a perfect contract, the environment that we work in is extremely dynamic. Gabrielle, you know, referred to, you know, the Friday night congressional that we receive. And what did you say? It was due last week. Yes. You know, it's an extraordinarily dynamic, open environment in which we work. Some of the aspects of the oversight and changes which we will need support to manage. In the program area, again, there's legislation, there's, you know, we have responded to a lawsuit most recently. And how do we communicate that to our partner? We have a change control process, you know, which we work hand in hand with our partner in terms of these are the requirements, these are the changes that we may need to make, and how will we do that? What will the timing be? What will the priorities be? So that's one of the tools that we have on the ongoing relationship basis. We have the help desk, again, a task in the PWS. So there will be inputs, you know, from our users, which we've talked about. You know, we need help with this, and then again, we will talk about that help desk. And it is a way of providing oversight. We will have performance metrics so that we can discuss that with our partner in various meetings. So again, from our perspective, it's an ongoing dynamic oversight and change. We will have contractor oversight. We'll have a quality control plan. We will be a quality assurance surveillance plan that we'll be talking about on an ongoing basis throughout the performance period. We will have performance metrics. And again, this is just tools in helping us to establish and sustain a successful partnership. So, again, it will be a dynamic environment, most assured. Lots of communication through meetings, the help desk, change control boards, and we will be talking a lot to certainly establish a successful partnership and work together on all of the requirements that we've discussed, throughout the presentation, and hopefully you'll find in the performance work statement. I think that does it for my third stool, or third leg of the stool. Okay. Thank you. Oops.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that presentation, and I'm sure you're just raring to go with some questions, but unfortunately, you have to take a break now. And so take a little bit of break, stretch your legs, think of more questions, and we will do our very best to, when you come back in about 15 minutes, I have no watch on, so 20 to 11. Why don't you come back, why don't we meet again at 11, and then we'll go through your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Write them on your little note cards. If you need more note cards, I know Brenda has more, so feel free, and we'll see you back at 11. Thank you so much.
I have one announcement to make before you go. The OSTEBU table is directly in the back with the forecast list if you're interested. They'll be there for the networking session. So if you want to know of upcoming opportunities, you may talk to the Small Business OSTEBU, Arnett and Mashomi. And we'll come back at 11. How about that? We're now going to go through the question and answer session. You may ask contractual questions as well as technical questions. Please put your questions on the 3x5 card. So I will be posting this and the slides to FedBizOp. Also, this will be put on YouTube, and I will be sending you a website for you to review it in case you missed something, okay? And now I'm going to turn it over to Gabrielle. She's going to monitor the technical questions.
Thank you. If anybody is finishing up with their questions, or if you have new questions during this part of the presentation of our pre-proposal conference, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to turn the time over just briefly to Bill, who is going to answer the earlier question. If you could read that again about the proposal time frame.
Okay. Why does the government believe that a 9-month transition is adequate for anyone but the incumbent?
Well, the first point I'm going to make is respond to the very end of that question, which is that we are very interested in hearing from anyone who has ideas about providing this service. It is open. We are intensely interested in competition and have been from the beginning. We believe that is what gets the best value for the taxpayers, what gets the best value for the program. So this is not restricted at all. Now, to get to the substantive part of the question, why do we believe first of all, why do we believe 9 months is sufficient? We are really agnostic on 9 months. We put in 9 months as a guideline. If you have a different idea, we would like to understand the basis for your thinking that it would be longer. But the plain fact of the matter is that we, the government, are not going to be doing the implementation. So the people who need to speak to how long it would take and what it would take and what you're going to do are you folks in the audience. And we are very interested in hearing how long you think it would take, and whether it would take less time or a longer time, and understanding the basis of that. We had to say something about the period of time, and frankly, internally, some people were saying, "Oh, we should say that it should be done in 2 weeks," and they were serious. So 9 months was the result of a debate. Oh, it's going to take longer. No, we don't want it to take so long. We want to get on with it. We were bouncing back and forth. But we want to hear your thoughts on that, and also what and why, what it would take. What is it going to take you to do it, because you're the people who are going to do it. And we're very, very keenly aware that you know and we don't. So we want to hear what you have to say. And we'll obviously put that in writing, look out for the written answer, but I wanted to answer that up front right here while everybody was here directly.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Our next question?
All right, this question is for the contracting officer. Can vendors still bid if they did not submit an intent to bid by the deadline?
That's yours.
Can vendors still bid if they did not submit an intent to bid by the deadline?
It's just for planning purposes. If you didn't send it, you can still submit a bid.
So just for everybody, just in case you didn't hear Brenda, yes, if you may still submit a bid even if you did not submit an intent to bid.
Next question. Communications, acumen, values, etc. are very important. Please ask for oral presentations so that you may assess how well contractors display these traits.
Brenda, I think that's yours too.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm sorry. I was trying, we getting email questions in, so I'm trying to make sure that we get everybody's questions. What was your question?
Communications, acumen, values, etc. are very important. Please ask for oral presentations so that you may assess how well contractors display these traits.
I'll answer that at another time. I don't think we decide to have oral presentations due to the time frame that we need to get this awarded. But it could be a possibility.
And to the panel, if this is not an IT requirement, why do you need an application developer and a senior FHCM analyst?
Okay, I'll answer part of that. The FHCM analyst, we do have federal requirements, and you will have to have an SSAE 16 audit of your operations. It has to be done in compliance with that FHCM audit manual. So your service that you're providing to us is the service. How you deliver that to us, what platform you use, how you use it, what your interfaces look like, that is part of your environment. We don't mind how you do that as long as you can meet the requirements and you explain that to us. So if you have an IT service, which most of you would have in order to meet this requirement, how are you going to make any changes that are needed if we have program requirement changes without an application developer? So that's why that's there, but also, Bill, did you want to add to that?
Gabrielle, just for the folks who asked that question, I mean, it's a good question, but I'd like you to consider some of the remarks we made. You'll be working with us, and as in effect, taking care of our business with us and for us, and so you will be subject to the same audit and oversight requirements that we are, because you're doing part of our business. You're living in our house with us.
Okay.
Earlier, you mentioned 4 and 5, an independent audit. What area are you talking about, and who is the independent auditor?
Okay, in your PWS, you will notice that it asks for you to select an independent auditor. You come to us, and whoever would be the successful contractor would propose who their independent audit firm is going to be. There is, Brenda discussed it just briefly, that mitigation plan that is required by legal, which would cover any organizational conflict of interest. It would require that your auditor report directly to the government in order to avert any potential conflicts of interest. So we can't tell you who your auditor is. You're going to propose that to us. And I think there was another part of the question. I'm not sure if I heard it.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. So was it the IV&V? Is that what you? Yeah, it's IV&V. It looks like 4 and 5, but it's really IV&V. Okay.
Please clarify what support is expected for effort by Ginnie Mae and GSEs to develop and implement liquid secondary market for HECM loans.
Okay, on that, as I discussed earlier, we do have an interface with Ginnie Mae. We have to send them data, they send us data. So your proposed platform, your solution, would have to be able to receive and send data to Ginnie Mae. As I mentioned earlier, there may be in the future additional requirements where Ginnie Mae may add additional fields. That is the support that you would be providing.
With such a high visibility, complex program, why is this a set aside for small businesses with the size standard of 19 mil?
Okay, I would refer that to Brenda, because I do believe it's a Brenda requirement, but part of our market research, we went out and we did do market research, and we did find capable firms. I don't know if that's something that Ms. Shoma or Arnett, if maybe you guys want to answer that directly, or we can postpone it. On the size standard, why we decided to make it why the acquisition was total small business.
Because of our market research, it showed that one of our small business goals, we have small business goals that we have to meet. And because we had several small businesses that came in capable of doing the work, then that's my decision that I determined to be a total small business set aside.
So this is for you, Brendan. This is the second part of that question, or the second part. Won't the award constitute a large dollar value to a small business, making the contract material to sustainment of the small business?
What? I'll answer that later.
That concludes my list of questions received today.
Okay, there were a few. Do we have email? Oh, they kind of need my help. So I am going to step away for a second. Excuse me. Have you ever had that happen where you look at something like your computer and it won't work, and then when you call the help desk or somebody else, all of a sudden it works? Okay, well that's what we just had. So I went there. I think the computer was afraid of me, so it decided to work pretty quickly, which is a good thing because I'm tough as nails. But I'm going to read one of the questions that we received that I can address, and then we'll get to some of the email questions. One of the email questions said, contractors shall send daily disbursement files to Treasury. Please confirm if the BSP solution needs to send disbursement files directly to Treasury, or whether the disbursement file will be sent to Treasury through a HUD-managed secure payment system, SPS, upload process. And I did allude to this earlier. The answer is the current process is to send disbursement files to the designated HUD server for processing through the SPS upload process. However, the government will be transitioning to Treasury's Payment Automation Managers, PAM, Standard Payment Request, SPR, format effective October 1st, 2014.
Yes. If offeror believes a shorter transition period than 9 months outlined in the solicitation is achievable, can an offeror submit a proposal with a shorter transition period, i.e. 3 months instead of 9?
To answer that, we have discussed that a little bit, but yes, as Bill mentioned as well, we have proposals or questions about, can we have a shorter transition period? Can we have a longer transition period? So we would accept your proposal, whether it be for a shorter period, the same period, a longer period, but we need to understand your rationale for why you're proposing the length of time that you're asking for. Next.
Is HUD seeking an existing solution or looking for someone to build a solution from scratch?
Actually, HUD is looking for the vendors to come to us and tell us what you have in the marketplace. That's one of the items related to the NAICS code that was selected, 522390, is mortgage loan servicing. So we would want you to come to us with your proposal. Tell us how you're going to do it. We put out the requirements, as Brenda mentioned before, and you come back under a performance-based work statement and you tell us how you're going to meet that. If you're going to use an existing service, okay, tell us that. If you're going to be able to meet the requirements stated in the PWS by doing something different, then you need to tell us that as well.
Lynn has a question.
Oh, okay.
Will HUD provide data dictionary and interface data elements so that we can determine the match with our system.
Okay, whose question is that? Because I'm missing part of it. Are you asking for us to give you a data element dictionary and data file formats for the existing IT system? Okay. Yes, at the time that we have, I mean, they're pretty straightforward, they're kind of standard. I will have to verify with Will in OGC what we're allowed to give you. But I know that for whoever the bidders are, the successful bidder, they would be able to meet with each of the representatives of the underlying systems for the FHA connection. The FHA connection data is pretty straightforward how it comes back and forth. Does that answer your question? Okay, I will have to defer to Will, but we will get that answer for you, okay?
Will HUD provide a list of interfaces required and the technical specifications for those interfaces?
Okay, the interfaces are listed in the PWS, but also referring to the earlier question, that the technical specifications, what is listed in there, I'm going to have to follow up with legal and I'll get an answer to you.
And my final question is for Brenda. Ms. Lee, can you please provide the PowerPoint slide deck for today's conference?
Okay. Oh, yes, just so that, in case you didn't hear, the deck will be provided. It will be posted on FedBizOps as well as the answers to the questions, and it'll also be available on YouTube. So, yay. Hope you don't mind being seen on YouTube. I don't know, while we're kind of, I'm just going to ad-lib here for a minute while we're waiting for another question. When I first heard about YouTube, my sons told me, oh, Mom, you never want to go on YouTube. So when Brenda said it's going to be on YouTube, I was like, oh, no. What if my sons Google my name and I come up on YouTube? So it'd be kind of like scary. But anyway, yes, we have another question.
What is the scope of transition support, including the existing contract? Included in the existing contract?
Okay, the transition, there is a task specifically deals with transition in, and that's covered in the PWS in detail. The support that you would get support from HUD naturally, from our subject matter experts. They're also referred to as SMEs. And we would have you also work with the incumbent as the transition out for them, transition in for a new contractor at that time, and we'll be able to answer that a little more in detail also later. Thank you.
Should offerers submit past performance for only government agencies, or can it include non-government clients as well?
It should include all of your clients, whether they're government or they're private industry, especially in this case, because this is a HECM Business Service Provider. You may have been providing services to some of the major lenders that are out there, lenders, servicers, originators. So yes, please include both. Or all, I guess, is a better term. Oh, no more? Okay, well, oh, you have more, okay.
Is the past performance survey form required for subcontractors as well as the prime?
Yes, the past performance survey is required. If you look in, I think it's section L, Brenda can tell me if I got it correctly. If your sub is like 20% or more of the work is going to be for them, that you need to have a past performance survey for your subs and all your, however many subs you have.
Let me iterate on that. The past performance survey is for the last 5 years. I believe it's 5 on
Yeah.
right?
5 years.
Yeah. And we like at least one from your subcontractor. I think it specifies it in the solicitation. I do want to reiterate one thing. Since we had a little break here, this doesn't mean that IT contractors cannot bid on this. It's just that this is not an IT contract. This is a service, business service provider. And I just keep reiterating that. It's not that there are highly IT functionalities of this requirement, but keep in mind, this is a service, not IT. And I'm going to try to have all the questions and answers posted by Thursday. And I will send you all a web link to the YouTube as soon as I get it.
I apologize. We have a lot of very similar questions, and so we don't necessarily want to bore you, because I know you want to perhaps ask more questions and also have an opportunity to discuss things with and network. I'm going to read one additional question, and it says this is an accounting question, and it also asks, the contractor shall send daily disbursement files to the FHA FHA '02. So our FHA SL, which is our general ledger, has two components. It has the FHA '01 and the FHA '02. And FHA '02 is cash. Is that right? Did I get that right? Okay, so FHA '02 is cash. And so then it says, please confirm if the business service provider's solution needs to be interfaced with the FHA '02 module of FHA SL for cash data. And the answer to that is yes, because the FHA '02 is the cash portion of our general ledger. So there are interfaces and transfers and updates that are done daily and monthly that go directly to the FHA '02. So you would have to have both of those. There are posting models, there are interface reports, all that kind of technical stuff I think we have available on the website. And so I will, as I mentioned before, I will verify with OGC what and how that data needs to, how it can be given out to the prospective vendors before your proposals are due. I don't want to accidentally give out anything that's proprietary in nature, but we want to make sure you have all the information you need to submit a reasonable, accurate proposal, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for business partners, people to help us to make the program successful, because that's what we want to do. Our mission is to give the very best to the American public, and we seek your help in being able to do that. Okay, thank you for coming to our pre-proposal conference. Did you have another question? Oh, okay, yay, sorry. Yes? Oh, yay. Okay.
Will you have to become an FHA approved servicer?
No. No, I don't think you need to be that, because you're not going to be the, well, no.
Okay. You have one more question over there? Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that ends our question and answer session. I want to reiterate one thing, and Diane is going to come up and do the closing. But I just want to reiterate the business size and the NAICS code. You have to be under that NAICS code and business size to qualify for a small business, whether you IT or whomever you are. You have to qualify so in order to bid for this procurement. And again, it's a service. I mean, I keep reiterating that all the time, but it's not IT.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank everyone for coming, and this concludes the HECM BSP Pre-Proposal Conference. And please take the time to network among one another, and be sure to stop back there to the OSDBU desk to look for any forecasting opportunities. Thank you.